Hi. I've been struggling with burnout a lot lately, so we're going to go over what burnout looks like, how to manage it, and how to address it. Burnout is different than stress, it is different than a lot of what's out there, and it requires some specific tweaking. And this morning, while I was sipping my coffee, I had an epiphany that just went, wait a minute, I think I have the solution for this. So I'm going to tell you a story. There was a man, I can't remember which war it was, but he was taken prisoner of war and he was captain of he was a ranking officer in this prison. And he took it upon himself, because of his rank, to take care of the other prisoners in the camp. They were basically subjected to prolonged, indefinite knowledge of what was going to happen to them. And he very quickly learned that the prisoners that he took under his wing, the ones that became discouraged and lost hope and ended up killing themselves in prison, were the people, were the prisoners who were overly optimistic. And it's when they crashed that they would then kill themselves. He learned very quickly, with some trial and error, that the only way to balance their endurance for the situation they were in is with two psychological, philosophical elements. The first one was being realistic. I'm going to write this stuff down. Being realistic was the first one. And the second element that was vital to their endurance and survival was also being hopeful. And when these two things were in balance, he noticed that they were realistic, so they weren't getting their hopes up, they weren't being optimistic, they were down to earth and accepting their situation, while also staying hopeful that it's not going to last forever. And the way he did this was with a simple mantra, basically, which was, yes, the situation right now, today, is that we are in prison and we don't know when we are going to get out of here. That is our reality. So it's an acceptance of the reality, but we will get out. And it was very much this balance of the two, that once he found it and more prisoners were brought in, he would teach them this mantra: look, accept the reality. We are in prison indefinitely, but one day we are going to get out. The words one day really hit me hard because they were the words that allowed me to use imagination therapy to see the future that one day I would have. So one day you will. Very, very powerful words. And when it comes to burnout, I want to bring these two elements together: the story of acceptance of the reality combined with the concept of one day you will. Because burnout is different than stress, it's different than having a bad day. That's not what burnout is. And I teach through example. I teach through story. And the best stories I have are the ones I live. So I'm going to be vulnerable and show you what it is I've been dealing with for the last 3 years. The hardest of the last 3 years came between 2021 and 2022. I In 2020, my husband threw me out and I relocated to New York City. I lost my husband. A month later, I lost my best friend of 17 years who sided with my husband. I lost my oldest daughter because, well, to be blunt, he was a narcissist and was collecting all the people closest to me. And he successfully turned my daughter and my best friend against me. I lost my home. I lost the gardens that I used to cope. I lost my job, my cars. I had a car accident. And then my maternal grandfather died. 3 months later, my paternal grandfather died. It was at this point that I had a panic attack. Literally, one of the only 2 panic attacks I've ever had in my life. I had a car accident on the George Washington Bridge on March of 2022. I'm sorry, March of 2021. I lost my home. I lost my environment. I lost the town that I grew up in. I thought that a move to New York City, and it did prove to be very, very beneficial, but I was not counting on the culture shock. So I lost familiarity. I lost 70 pounds. And as a result, I lost all of my clothes. I had to buy a new wardrobe. Everything in my life, literally in 365 days, with the exception of my 2 children of the 3, was new. Everything, even my name, everything was new. I lost my cat. My husband kept that. I lost virtually everything. I came to New York City and I started to rebuild when I lost my apartment and I lost my job again and I lost my car again. And then I lost my boyfriend. And then I lost all of my community that I had built up, including like 98% of my friends. I have lost more in the last 2 to 3 years, and I just keep losing and just keep losing. So I'm very, very well acquainted with loss at this point. I have lost most of my possessions. Actually, I lost all of my possessions with the divorce. I had to rebuy everything from scratch. And it was literally just a constant wave, month after month after month. That whole when it rains, it pours. It's been pouring for 3 years. And I'm ready for it to stop raining. I'm really ready for it to stop raining. The first thing that I chalk all of this loss up to is, well, a mantra that I started, which is I release what no longer serves me. This is upgrading your life. When you decide you want to go from 1.0 to 2.0 version of yourself, everything that doesn't serve you, you lose. And this constant loss after loss after loss after loss. My stepfather, I spoke to him a couple days ago, and he very cryptically said, "When are you coming down? Or when are you coming to visit? Because you need to come visit soon." And there were a couple things said that tipped me off that I will, my stepfather, my heart father, will be passing soon. So I'm looking at another loss, a big one that's coming up for me. And there was a time where I felt like I couldn't get my feet under me. So coping with loss and grief has led to this massive level of burnout. And this is all while I'm trying to launch the healing garden, which ironically is one I'm needing at the most right now because it and my 2 children are pretty much all I have left. And My goal is to build something that can't be taken away. That's it. My goal is to build something that is so stable and so certain that no one else has the right over it. No one else has the ability to take it away from me. And so I'm building this company. And I have days where I go, do I abandon it and go get a day job? And then I have other days where I just stick to it and keep going. And I am so burnt out most days that the comfort I seek barely scratches the surface. And I've been racking my brain. I've got my self care regimen that I've been working on. And I realized that burnout is a whole nother level of self care because it's not about self care anymore. Self care is great for maintenance. This isn't maintenance. That's like, I'm going to lie down and like meditate and just enjoy a me day while you're in the middle of this prison. You don't have that option because you're in survival mode when you're in burnout. It feels like your only option is to lay down and sleep in the mud. And burnout is very much a lesson in humility because you do end up taking sacrifices and sleeping in the mud just to gain the strength to go on. And no matter how much you sleep and rest, you wake up exhausted because burnout isn't about self care anymore. It's about adjusting your perspective to keep yourself enduring through the hard times. And when you are dealing with substantial grief, that's the thing. Grief is, and this is really, this is the other side to burnout, is grief. I have a lot to say on grief, a lot to say on grief. And I'm going to do another video after this about grief. I don't want to mix the two because grief is a whole nother creature over there. But this one regarding burnout is you cannot treat it like it's having a bad day. Let's go sit down, have a hot beverage, take a bubble bath. You'll be fine. That's not burnout. That is not burnout. Burnout is being stuck in an endless cycle of grief where you cannot catch your breath and you still have to stand and carry on. It is the acceptance of the reality. And burnout happens when you resist the reality. I really think that's it because it takes so much energy to resist. This is what Buddhism talks a lot about, is letting go. I hate the words letting go. I really hate the phrase let it go. My God, do I. Love the song. I think I'm the only one in the world who still loves the song. But I really hate the concept of, in mental health, of letting go. There's a difference between letting go and releasing. Releasing is, let's make this like, imagine this is a stable stick or a pole in the ground and you're holding on to it like this. Releasing is just relaxing. That's it. But letting go feels more like you're pushing it away. And that's not resisting or that's not accepting either. That's something different. And if anything, when you're told to let it go and we think about the concept of letting go, our grip gets tighter. And that doesn't necessarily mean what it is. So coping with burnout requires a completely different style of mental treatment. It's not a focus on the self-care. That doesn't even touch it. That's a joke. It's a joke. I'm really the first one to tell you that a self-care regimen for burnout is a joke. Meditation doesn't touch it. So for burnout, it's actually requiring a change of your perspective. It's actually requiring you to adjust your perspective just slightly so that you accept the reality of your situation while staying hopeful to say this is not permanent. This is a temporary situation. Now we don't know how long we're going to be here. But the reality is there is no comfort. There is no comfort. There is no maybe there's no end in sight immediately, but one day there will be. And it's a matter of learning how to adjust to your current reality, which we resist. And it's the resistance that's causing the burnout. It's not the current reality that's causing the burnout. It is the resistance to the current reality. And I'm in the same boat with you right now. I have this constant question in the back of my mind going, how much am I going to drown before I fly? How far am I going to sink and drown before I get to fly? And I can feel it building. And I'm some days that I feel like I'm just right there, and then I'm not. And I am just asking for that one bit of relief where just one thing just turns, clicks, and I'll be fine. So, and then this is where society gaslights you. When you're in burnout and people come along and they say things to you like, oh, well, just meditate. And you think there's something wrong with you. We're going to do a whole nother video just on what's wrong with you. Oh, are we? I have a real problem with what's wrong with you. And it's this concept of if you're not this super person, if you're not this awesome, amazing out there and doing and achieving, there's something wrong with you. If you're emotional or you're too sensitive, there's something wrong with you. So we are adding that added pressure onto our burnout. There's nothing wrong with you. You are caught in a really horrible or difficult situation. And it's equivalent to being a prisoner without a prison sentence inside. Imagine going to prison and not even knowing how long you're going to be there. Imagine going to prison and you just have to, and you're checking off the days, but you're not checking off the days because you don't know how long you're going to be there. And that's burnout. It is equivalent to an indefinite marathon, and it requires full endurance. And if you're not accepting the reality of your situation, you are resisting it. You are mentally throwing a tantrum going, I don't want this. I don't want to be here. I don't want this. I want to be. And you keep dreaming and you keep thinking about, oh, if only, if only, if only. Stop. That's resisting the reality. So I am your captain. And we're in prison together, you and I. And I'm telling you, you need to be realistic about your situation. You need to accept what's real. Maybe you're living with an abusive spouse. Maybe you can't get a job. Maybe you are stuck in such a deficit of grief that you cannot unbury yourself out of it. Accept it. This is the situation, and it sucks. And there's nothing wrong with you. It will not last forever. The focus is to get through it. So now we're going to start accumulating tools for burnout, because burnout is a whole nother creature. A whole nother creature. I'm going to leave you with that thought, and then I'm going to jump on a video, and I'm going to be talking about what's wrong with you, and I'm going to be talking about grief and what it really is. Those are my notes. So the best thing I can tell you is when you meditate on burnout, the goal isn't to accept the stress and relax. No, it's a mantra you need of this is my situation. This is my reality. This is what I'm living in right now. And I'm not going to resist it. I'm going to accept it and I'm going to make the best of it. And believe me, it's not going to be easy making the best of it when you have all of these things coming because learning how to endure burnout is growth. It is. This is like a triadic. There's like three parts to this. And this is the burnout. And then you've got the grief. And then you've got the guilt. What's wrong with you? And that's it. So this is part one of the burnout. And in a moment, I'm going to talk about what really grief is. And then I'm going to talk about that guilt, what's wrong with you, and shaming yourself while you are in a mental prison. Thank you so much for joining me. All the links are below. Follow me, subscribe to my newsletter. Start your healing journey. You can design your own journey. Go to the website. There's a plethora of options available for all types of budgets. I do one-on-one consultations. I offer free readings on any and all purchases made. So you'll get a full self-care regimen as well. And I also have the self-care regimen where I address your exact needs tailored to your personality. It is not a generic internet self-care regimen. I also do emotional management, and then there is the master classes that I offer. Thank you again, and may the kindest of words always find you. And be sure you check out the second video in this series, Grief and What It Really Is.